Hi, in this IBM BPM tutorial, we will learn about how to create a service and expose as a web service in BPM. So we will create a SOAP-based web service in IBM BPM, and here for the testing purpose we will use the SOAP UI tool. In the real world, this web service which you are developing in IBM BPM will be called by any third-party application. Okay, so let's understand how does it work. So suppose this is your BPM application, BPM tool. Okay, and here you have your BPM process, and here there could be multiple client application. These client application could be from any language, like you can develop as a mobile application, or you can develop in Java, or you can develop in Python. It could be any language, and they will send a request. They will call to the process, and process will give back the response. So it's like a request and response. The protocol which they are going to use for this communication, sending the request and response, that will be the SOAP protocol. So that's why we call this as a SOAP based web service. Okay, so let's say this is a Java client. Similar way, let's have the Python application. Okay, it could be a C# application. Okay, so as we know, when any service exposes itself as a SOAP based web service, it is the responsibility of the service to provide a WSDL file to the client. So here this Java client will get the WSDL file from the BPM WSDL file. Okay, this WSDL file, as we know already, will contain the detail, okay, about the URL, okay, where BPM server is deployed, because the service which we have developed, it's deployed in BPM server. Second will be the number of operations in the service. Okay, and the third thing will be message type, or I can say as a input and output request. So we already know a WSDL file is a combination of these three things. URL, we also say in WSDL term as a binding, then port type, number of operations in the service, and what is the input and output type of the request. Okay, so in this scenario, since BPM is exposing the service, it will also called as a service provider, and the applications which are consuming this service, those will be called as a service consumer. Okay, so we will try to develop a service. It is a quite simple service. In BPM we will develop. Here we are going to develop a calculator service. Okay, so in this calculator service we will have four operations, okay, like addition, multiplication, subtraction, and division. Okay, so we will develop this service in BPM side, and we will expose as a SOAP based web service, and we will see how an external client is going to access this service. Okay, so let's log into our BPM server. So in our BPM server, currently we are in our Blue Shield Health app. Okay, fine. So any service which you want to create, for that you have to create a general system service. So here you can see there are two type of integration services are available: integration service and general system service. So whenever you need such type of service from which you are going to connect to external world. External world means any other service which is deployed externally. Suppose I want to connect to a database, or from BPM I want to connect to any service which is exposed as a SOAP based service. We will use the integration service. For writing any internal logic, if you want to create any service, internal logic means any logic which is limited to the BPM application itself, BPM tool itself, we will create a general system service. So here the calculator logic I am going to write inside a BPM, so we are going to use a general system service. Okay, so what we need to do, we have to create 4 services over here. So addition service, second similar way subtraction service. For each operation we will create a single service, subtraction service. Okay, multiplication service, and division service. Okay, fine. Now the next thing is we have to implement these services. So addition services. So the first thing is you create your service, you define the variables. Okay, so since for me it's an addition service, so I need minimum 2 input variables. So let's define the input variable as a input A and input B, and output variable, suppose output variable I made as output var. Okay, and all these variables let's make as an integer because it could not be a string. So integer, fine. Okay, now let's come to the diagram and drag and drop a server script. Server script, you if you want to write any sort of a JavaScript code, any type of logic if you want to write, so you can write in the server script. Okay, so just give the name of the service here, addition service, and drag and drop the start button to here and this one to end. Fine. Okay, now in the implementation you can access your variables which you have created over here. So I will just, when you want to access any variable in BPM, so since these are the local variables, so tw.local.output var equal to tw.local.input A plus tw.local.input B. Okay, fine, save it. Okay, so that's it. It's a very simple logic because I just want to add 2 numbers, so I just added these 2 numbers. Okay, now if suppose you want to test this service, so we can test this service using the debugger via this, but I will not, if I just test from here the run service, I do not have any mechanism to provide this input A and B value. So for that what I will do, I will try to put a default value. So for any variable, input variable, if you want to put a default value, you can just directly select the variable and click over here as default, and suppose I made a value as a 40 and input B I made as a has default not is list. Okay, and 60. Fine. save it, and now A is 40, B is 60. Okay, so the output should be 100. Okay, input A 40, output is input B 60 step, and here I can see the output value is 100. So the service is running fine. Similar way, we can develop the rest of the services. Subtraction service, create the variables, input A, and here same way, output var equal to tw dot local dot input A minus. Okay, so we will use the minus. Fine, save it. Next implementation, multiplication service. Okay, so here let's give the name write the logic here. Okay, so it's done. tw dot local dot output var equal to tw dot local dot input A minus tw dot local dot input B. Okay, fine, done. So we have developed all these 4 services. Okay, each service represents one operation in the overall service which we are going to develop. Okay, so fine. Now what we need to do, the next step, go to implementation and select the web service container. Okay, this container will basically generate a WFTL file. That WFTL file you can share with the outside third party component. Okay, so let's give some name as a cal calculator WS. Okay, so you can see over here, you can add all of your operations. So just add the operation addition, subtraction, so give some name also, addition, is, subtraction, is, multiplication, is, and okay. So what we did over here, we selected all these 4 operations in the web service. Okay, once you have selected these operations, what will happen, automatically you will get a URL. Okay, so if you just click over here this URL, this is basically a WFTL file. This WFTL file contains these 4 operations. Okay, so now this WFTL file you can save it. Okay, you can take the URL from this service, copy the URL, and this URL you can give to the third party. Otherwise you can just copy this WFTL file and save in some file as .wftl extension, and that also you can give to the client. Okay, so here I came to SOAP UI tool, file, new SOAP project. I'm going to create a SOAP project here. So calculator WS, click on OK button, and here you can see the SOAP UI project, the SOAP UI tool has already created 4 requests for you. Okay, so addition, here you can give the value of input. So suppose input is, again I am giving 54, and suppose output is 6. So addition service, because it is going to add these 2 value, I should get the output as 60 if everything works fine. So you can see the output came as a 60. So what's happening over here, from external client, okay, that is currently a SOAP UI tool, you are sending the request to BPM, the request comes to BPM, the service gets executed, and you are getting the response. So here we developed a very simple service, but in future, suppose you want to create any complex service, what you need to do over here, you need to go to implementation and create the general system service. Okay, and write the logic inside that, define the variables. Okay, and finally create a web service container which will hold all those services. Okay, so whatever the logic you want to write, you can write over here. You can write basically JavaScript, so you can write any sort of a complex logic here. Okay, so let's test some other services also. 65, suppose multiplied by 2, so we got the result as 130, working fine. Subtraction, suppose input 10 and output is 4, input B is 4, I got the result as 6, that's also fine. Division, so let's say input is 32, one more input is 4, A divided by B. Okay, so okay, I think here we have used in division, let's see the division service, we have used the minus. Okay, that's why it works as a negative. Now what you can do, you can, in place of minus, just put this symbol, it should work. Okay, you don't need to deploy because automatically the process will get deployed, and now you can see you are getting the exact result. 4 8 32. So this is the way you can expose any service from BPM as a web service. Remember two step, the logic you are going to write in general system service or integration service sometime, and all those service reference you have to give in the web service container over here. That's it, and you have to get the WFTL URL from this place. Okay, thank you.